Hi, welcome to SEO Hangouts with Josh Bachynski. That's me. Today I have a crazy hangout about all the interesting stuff that Google has said over the last few months. I'm going to try and collapse it into one single video. So I know every time I say I'm going to go rapid fire, this time I'm really going to go rapid fire. And I'm just going to kind of, like November 6th, he said this, blah, November 17th, I'm just going to keep going. And so if anything I say provokes you and you think, oh, what does that mean or what's going on, I might explain it a little bit more in the video, but by all means, one, you can always email me and ask me or contact me on Twitter and ask me. My email is joshbachynski@gmail.com. My Twitter is @joshbachynski, and you can find more videos like this, largely explaining what it is I've said in this video at youtube.com/jbachyns. It's JBACHYNS. But for this video, I'm going to adjust the camera slightly. There we go, kind of like that. For this video, I'm going to just go through rapid fire and try and catch up with all the crazy stuff that Google's been talking about, because they've been talking about some crazy stuff. So, as promised, here we go. November 6th, John Mueller said, he implied that the less something is crawled, the worse it might rank. And so my general rule of thumb is that if you look in Search Console, let's say your high amount of pages are crawled per day, or say 2,000, you want the lowest to be at least 200. You want it to be 10%. If it's not 10%, in my experience, that site either has a speed problem or a quality problem or both. And that can also lead to a ranking problem, both directly in terms of quality and speed, and not getting crawled enough. But I personally think, and my mantra is, you got to make it easier for Google. The easier you make it for Google, usually the more kind they are to you. So you want to make it as easy for Google as possible. And I think they actually demote sites that make it hard for them. He also said in that date that, and I quote, he said, I don't think we said that user metrics is a ranking factor. When he's asked if user metrics is a ranking factor, someone claims on the Hangout that you said user metrics is a ranking factor. And he says, and I quote, I don't think we said that user metrics is a ranking factor. This, of course, implies that it is. Notice what he did not say. He did not say it's not a ranking factor. He did not say, I don't think it is. He said, I don't think we said it is. Meaning there's multiple people who talk on Google's behalf, such as Gary Iles or Mai Oyi, or this new Andre guy from Russia, whose last name I can't pronounce, but I'll get to in a second. He said some very fascinating things. And so, again, that implies strongly that it is, and that he wouldn't go on a limb and say that it's not. Okay, on November 17th, I did a bit of an experiment, and I found out, quite frankly, I would not suggest you buy non-brandable exact match domains. Like, for example, don't buy if you want to rank for redapples.com, if you want to rank for red apples, don't buy redapples.com. It's just not, you don't get the exact match bonus anymore. People don't search for your brand as much. And it's like, if everyone searched for your brand and clicked you and you'd had high brand searches and high click-through rate on that, that would be a very positive signal and that'd be good for you. But because you went for the generic EMD, and everyone is looking for red apples, and they might be looking for a different kind of red apples, you're not going to get the clicks that you previously want, and that's going to confuse RankBrain, which I'm going to talk about in a second. So, speaking of that Russian dude, Andrei Lipatsev, 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 Andrei Lipatsev or something, I don't know. My last name is Bachynski, I understand. On this day, he was interviewed by Web Promo Expert, which I'm also doing an interview for as well, and later on this week. If you want to know about it, please follow my Twitter, or please follow Web Promo Expert. Anyway, he's a web trends analyst, just like John Mueller is, this Andre guy, at Google, and he said some fascinating things, because he's he's younger, he's a little bit more testosterone-filled, he's willing to put it on the line a little bit more and say some things. And he was also talking with some of the other well-known industry experts like Bill Slawski, people like that, in this particular hangout. And so he spilled the beans a little bit more. So let me tell you the highlights of what he said. I'll go through in detail, maybe in a future hangout, everything he said, but I'm going through the holy crap highlights. These are the holy crap highlights of the end of 2015, beginning of 2016 from Google. So this is what he said. He implicitly admitted that occasionally, if you are a big AdWords customer, you can use your account manager to make changes to the search rankings. He says on the search side, they push back very strongly, quote unquote, but he implies, and directly implies, this is not 100%. He lamented the fact that it wasn't 100%, that these big AdWords customers could actually use their AdWords account manager to go to the search team and say, hey, this site's not ranking, this guy spends millions of dollars, so let's fix it. He admitted that that happens. So if you're having trouble and you spend millions of dollars on AdWords, push on your AdWords manager, if you haven't already, to get your organic rankings going. It may not work, but it's one channel, and a guy from Google here just basically admitted that, yeah, it works more than he'd like. Also, he was asked how much the social feed into search. And he lies. He lies. I already know his tales. I mean, these guys should not play poker. He says it's too noisy. Now, one, quite frankly, in my opinion, this is the standard line he's been told to say. So yes, if they need a standard line, they're doing something with it, right? Anytime a Google employee is asked if they use user clicks and or search clicks or search metrics, any kind of search signal, they say it's too noisy. They all say that in the exact same way using the exact same sentence. That is a clear public relations response, right? If they need a clear public relations response, why do they need a clear public relations response? Is because they're using it. So, I mean, again, this is a little tinfoil hat-ish, but not really. I mean, political analysts do this all day long for the people running for political office, and they do it sometimes correctly. And I have lots of other evidence to suggest that's the case. This is just interesting that it's admission from him as well, not just John Mueller and Matt Cutts and the previous people who have admitted this. And Miley Oye, to my face, admitted this at a conference in private. Oh yeah, we're tracking social signals. Oh yeah. Point blank. People love it when I say that. And by love, I mean they troll it like crazy. So I'll give you more ammo. Point blank. There. Your day should be made. He said, stop using the site : search operator. It's completely useless. I mean, Gary Iles has said this as well. John Mueller has said this as well. So for SEO purposes, you probably want to stop using the site : search operator. The only thing it really gives you is kind of the number of URLs in the database, in their index for that particular site. That's it. That's basically all it gives you. And he said, and this was very interesting, he said, ideally, we should not rely on structured data, quote unquote. I repeat, he said, he was asked about structured data, and he said, ideally, we should not rely on structured data. Okay, so this implies a number of things. One, that they are, right? Strongly. That they have to, and he doesn't like it because it makes webmasters take an extra step, right? And they would prefer just to be able to read the page and tell what the page is about and tell what entities are on it perfectly. They can't do that perfectly, but they can get better and better at it, and this implies also they will get better and better at it because that's where they want to go and that's what they want to do. So, and he does also imply by saying that, and did imply this hangout, which, by the way, was on November 19th. If you're wondering when it was on November 19th, if you want to go back and check. I have the URL here as well. It's webpromo.expert/Google-QA. Again, that's webpromo.expert/Google-QA. So he did admit at that time that they do use structured data, and they do give a reward for using structured data. And I have more information about that below. Okay, so he said a bunch of other stuff that I'd love to say, but there's just too much to go over. Finally, he blatantly admits that they also use, and I quote, empirical evidence of what users want to find. I repeat, this is a quote, empirical evidence of what users want to find. That's clicks. There's nothing but on that's user actions, right? How they move the mouse, how they type, how they click. They're using all of that. They already have a password system, a CAPTCHA system that you don't actually have to type anything into. You just have to move your mouse around and click, and they can tell you're a human being by that, statistically, how the way humans move it versus the way that robots move it. Okay, so furthermore, he said that they don't need, because he was asked, do you use Google Analytics data? Does a search site use Google Analytics data the way that Google AdWords uses Google Analytics traffic data? And he said that we don't really need Google Analytics data. This is not a denial, by the way, that they don't use Google Analytics data. So one, he implied a little bit there that they can and do use Google Analytics data on the search side. Two, he said even without that data, quote unquote, so again, that implies that they do use that data. But then he said, and I quote, even without that data, this also implies strongly I mean, it directly states, it doesn't imply, even without that data, we can rank sites, right? So he's saying in regards to user click data, we can rank sites. So again, this is just more information, more corroborating evidence to show those clingers on who don't think they're using user actions as a ranking factor. They are using user actions as a ranking factor, and I'm going to show that even more because John Mueller really spilled the beans when it comes to core Panda in a couple of seconds. Okay, on December 23rd, I came across, I do a lot of SEO audits. I do them on a regular basis, and so I see a lot of stuff. And so this one particular site had low quality off-topic content. And what they did is they deleted all of that. So when they deleted pages, their crawl rate exploded, which makes no sense. The crawl rate is supposed to go up when you add pages. But when they deleted pages, the crawl rate went up tremendously. So yes, there is a ratio to the speed that the server can respond to the number of pages to the quality of the page, and that kind of triangle means how much you're going to be crawled. And it could be causal or just could be an effect in terms of ranking. But it is definitely an indirect effect because if Google can't crawl you, they're not going to rank you. So remember, again, there's another piece of evidence that I just want to put out there that I think that you can watch your crawl rate to determine what kind of quality you have, and also your crawl rate will affect the kind of trust and quality Google thinks they have in you. Okay, moving on now to, if only this would scroll faster, to December 1st, John Mueller had a hangout, and Baruch, my favorite fellow Baruch from Toronto. Baruch Lubinsky asked, and he asked John Mueller blatantly about the Disavow tool and if it's going to keep working with the new Penguin. And he said, and I quote, I'm quoting Baruch, he said, "There's a lot of criticism that the Disavow tool doesn't work." Coming from me mostly, right? I am really the only guy out there who has the balls to say that the Disavow tool really doesn't work. There's no evidence that it works. There's still no evidence that it works. I'm going to get you some evidence in a couple seconds that it will continue to not work, by the way, including this admission. John Mueller looked back at him, smirked with a little shit-eating grin, and said, and I quote, "It definitely handles the submissions you do there correctly." I repeat, his response was not, "Yes, it works," exactly as I say. His response was not, "Yes, users can use it to make sure they cut off link juice pointing to their site that either they made or negative SEO." He does not say those things. It was a perfect chance for him to say those things. He did not say those things. He said, and I quote, "Well, it definitely handles the submissions you do there correctly," meaning it definitely parses the file, and they definitely do something with that file. What they do, he had a perfect chance to say, "It works just like I say it does," but he does not. Why? Because John Mueller doesn't like to lie. He has a conscience. He's always had a conscience. And so again, I take this as a direct admission. I mean, it's a direct admission that it doesn't work the way that they say it does. How it works, he doesn't say, but it doesn't work the way that people have inferred by John Mueller's statements. Why would John Mueller make those statements? Because it gets people to fill in the Disavow file that they can use for machine learning, which he admits in a couple seconds. December 4th, John Mueller admits that outlinks might not be significantly rank giving. So if you have powerful outlinks, like people in the bottom of the page used to link to Facebook, link to Google, link to Wikipedia, and this used to be a well-known trick that it boosted your ranking. It was a quality factor and or a page rank factor, some kind of like reverse page rank factor, because you were being a good net citizen and linking out to good net sites. But he wants to say that it doesn't work anymore, blah 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 blah. But he says it won't be. He said it won't be a significant boost. But whenever he says something's not a significant boost, that implies that it's a minor boost, right? He says that about title tags, he says that about H1s, and he says that about outlinking on your page. So you should still outlink on your page. You should still outlink to big sites related in your topic. And so if you sold red apples on your site, you should be linking out to thebigfruitemporium.com and to different places and things like that are related, because it's still a minor. This implies it's a minor signal. Just the same way he talks about all the other minor signals that we know are a minor signal. I've been a minor signal since the beginning, like title tags and H1s. He claims that many footer links can be a problem, so keep that in mind. He claims that linking to your social profile is good. Remember my correlation experiments that I did with that awesome correlation tool that I have to show how Hundreds of sites have correlative features ranking on page 1 versus page 19. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go back and look at my videos or just email me and I can talk to you about it, especially if you want to do this report for your own particular niches to see how your competitors are outranking you. I can tell you. That study found that sites that link out to their social profile and then reciprocal link from the social profile back, just like the way authorship used to work, have a huge correlative boost in ranking. So again, I'm assuming is going to presume that you also have to have an active social profile for that to work. Because Matt Cutts told me about their ability to weed out social profiles that were not active and that were spammy. In fact, he lamented to me personally in a private conversation. Matt Cutts used to be the head of web spam at Google. He shared an office with the former head of search, Amit Singhal, who they've now recently replaced with their head of artificial intelligence. I wonder if they're going the artificial intelligence route, right? The new head of search at Google is their former head of artificial intelligence. So anyway, John Mueller mentions in this hangout on December 4th that linking to your social profile is good. He also implied in the same hangout that, again, that bad markup will hurt your rankings. And he confirms that good markup is not going to help your rankings. Having valid HTML and valid schema is not going to help your rankings, but having invalid schema errors in Search Console, or having invalid markup is going to hurt your rankings. He did admit this, or he implied that and admitted that it's not going to give you a boost. Same hangout, December 4th, he avoids the question as to whether Penguin will be machine learning or not. But in the same breath, he then immediately goes on to extol the virtues of machine learning, but cautions that not every result can be machine learned, as it would be very hard for human beings to diagnose what the AI is doing if it's all machine learning. But that's currently where they are, and again, as I said, they're going the AI route. They have already gone the AI route. They've already admitted that RankBrain is the third largest ranking factor. I repeat, they've already admitted that RankBrain, their artificial intelligence, which learns from machine learning, is already their third largest ranking factor, probably after content and offsite references. Probably it's pretty clearly what it's about. And then third is user clicks. That makes sense. And that's what the machine learning goes off as user clicks. Because that's ultimately going to tell them, user actions are going to tell them if the site is actually what the person wanted to find, right? If the site's not what they wanted to find, they're going to bounce back and click something else. So that makes perfect sense. So he also, however, does admit almost in the exact same conversation, he accidentally admits when talking about machine learning that their machine learning, he starts rambling off what their machine learning looks at, and he spoke a little bit more before realizing he stopped and went to some other topic. He admitted that machine learning looks both at the page, the off-site signals, whatever those happen to be, and the user clicks per query. So again, he admits, point blank, that the machine learning looks at the page, the off-site signals, and the user clicks per query. Okay, moving right along to December 11th hangout. This is very interesting. He's talking about Panda. Now, I'm going to talk about Panda at the end of this hangout. He says something very interesting about Panda. But he also claims that they look at the website as a whole in order to put it in a low-quality bucket or a high-quality bucket before they even try to tell what the page is about. So this is fascinating. Before they even try to tell what the page is about, they already check the user clicks of that particular website to determine, probably in the A/B testing new site phase, but maybe even just going on, period, to try and tell if it's even worth processing at a deeper level, right? The level in which they render the page and tell what's going on. So do an initial crawl just to find out that it's there. They check the clicks for it in their click database to tell whether it's even worth looking at for a deeper analysis for that particular page. So I found that particularly fascinating. Okay, now, on December 15th, John Mueller had an indexing and crawling hangout. This was explicitly a, how do I get new products ranking question? So I repeat, someone asked him, how do I get new products ranking? And he answered, and I'm quoting, it has to be a very recognizable brand, might recommend it to others, other people are recommending it, might even buy it, quote unquote. So this is all the stuff they're tracking, right? They're tracking brand searches, they're tracking whether it's socially shared or not, whether people bookmark it, whether links are made to it, quite possibly, whether there's any text mentions to it on social or on other forums or blogs that are related to that particular topic, and might even buy it. He said, he mentioned in terms of, and I quote, how do I get new products ranking question? people buying it might make a difference there. So again, he admits they're tracking conversions. You need to make sure your conversions are up, your bounces are down. This is a direct ranking factor these days, and it's just only going to help your sales. You don't know how to do that? Contact me or anybody and they will help you do that. Also in the same Hangout, December 15th, John Mueller admits that bad links can give you negative link juice, my words. Negative link juice is my words. But he does admit that this same kind of concept, that bad links can give you a negative ranking factor or a negative link juice aside from any manual penalty that you have even after the manual penalty is lifted. Okay, so this is crazy. He just admitted that even after your manual penalty is lifted, that those bad links that still remain that are over threshold in some regard can still give you a negative ranking factor or still derank you or give you negative link juice, as I like to say. So, okay, interesting. All right, December 29th, John Mueller had a mega end of the year hangout. It went on forever. He said a lot of interesting things. Like, remember, you need to keep your 301s forever. That further reinforces the fact that the disavow file does not work like a switch, only when the site bubbles up to manual actions. Because he was asked, do I need to disavow both on the old site and the new site? He said, you need to disavow on the target. So if you need to disavow on the target site, then that means it's only supposed to work for human beings. Because if it worked like a switch, the process would go like this. Found link to site, check if disavowed. Not disavowed, apply link juice, whether good or bad. It doesn't matter if it's in a chain of 301s. It has to do that for every single link. Otherwise, that if loop, that if-else loop doesn't work in the programming, right? So again, he's admitted that the way the programming would have to work for something like that to work, they can't look into the future and to decide if you have a 301 and come back then and retroactively apply or not apply that link juice based on the disavow file. And they're not checking, a human being won't check the disavow file if you're one site here, 301s to this site here. The disavow file has to be here. A human being will check here, a human being will not check here. But the program would check both. The program would go through every single link it tries to apply. Do you know the programming and how processor intensive that would be to add that if loop to all the trillions and trillions of link they process on a monthly basis? They just can't do it. So people who think the disavow file works this way, they're not paying attention and they have no evidence to suggest it does. They have no direct evidence to suggest it does. So, and that's still, and this is recent conversations. This is not from years ago. This is recent conversations from Google, which tells me that even in the conversation of Penguin coming out maybe soon, maybe not, the disavow file probably won't work as a switch, which is unfortunate. I was hoping they would. Okay, he did admit that their new AI team leader is John Giannandrea, Giannandrea, John Giannandrea. That's the new head of search, Google Search, and he was their former head of AI, the team leader for AI, who also built RankBrain. He's the guy who built RankBrain. The guy who built RankBrain is now the head of Google Search. Do I need to say any more about that? I mean, come on. RankBrain is our artificial intelligence that, in my opinion, tracks user clicks, and for Penguin is going to be tracking machine learned links and percentages that way. Or at least the machine learning will feed into the system, and then it'll say if you're X% like this kind of link and all the things around that link, then that link is a Penguin link and it's going to send you negative link juice. Okay, John's face indicates that they do use whois information for search in some cases. I suspect it can be an indication of quality. I have a lot of that information on my Panda list. Just search Panda list. .html. There's another site called Panda List, interestingly, which didn't exist when I made this Panda List. It's some kind of adult site. Don't go there if you're looking for my stuff. I mean, well, you can go there if you like. You're not going to find me there. By all means, take an afternoon. Maybe not while you're at work. It's probably against the rules. Unless you work for yourself like me. Okay, so now, and furthermore on this mega hangout, again, he said so much stuff. I'm just going to go over the most important stuff because I'm at 26 minutes now or so, 25 minutes or so. John Mueller directly states that speed will become an increasing ranking factor, especially for mobile, and that if the page is too slow, it will be treated as non-mobile friendly. He says, it doesn't matter if it loads under 3 seconds. If every subsequent load doesn't cache or every subsequent load has 1,000 DOM requests, quote unquote, 1,000 requests to the document object model that the browser has to ask for this image, this CSS, this JS, this JS, this CSS. If it does that too intensively because the processor on these little phones are too small, then it's not going to rank well. He goes on to admit that it is completely user-based, that there's no hard line they're just going to pick out of the air. I know 666 DOM requests is enough. Any more than that, and thou shalt not rank. They're not going to do that. Good. It's going to be user-based because remember, they just installed Safe Browse on mobile. Remember? Safe Browse is this thing that watches everything you click and how long it takes you to click it, right? And makes a call to this program that checks the database if that's a malware URL, and it puts up the red screen of death. You can't go there, there's malware. Okay, but however, some black hats that I know put a packet sniffer on this and realized that they're asking Google every time you make a request. So this is how Google is tracking clicks on the browser side as far as I can tell. And they didn't have it on Safe Browse before, and so they had to have this kind of extra static system, like I'm detecting mobile rendering issues on your site. They're still using that, but not as much anymore, because now they have Safe Browse on mobile and they can track your clicks, your taps on mobile directly. Still think they're not doing it? They're doing it. Okay, going down here. Going down. He said a lot. Okay, so now we get to this core algorithm update. This was Panda, the core algorithm update. I'm going to say a lot of stuff about this from many different sources. One, from me. This source of SEO. I did an experiment. I did not so much an experiment, just I noticed something. That's what an experiment is in SEO, typically. You notice something. I have a particular site that, let's say is called Base. I own base.com. And on base.com, I sell electric bases. But, however, it could also be bass or bass fishing. It could also be, something else. And so on a site like this that I own, I had a huge ranking plummet for base, the query search base, which I was ranking on like 5th spot, 8th spot, 5th spot. It dropped down to like the 28th spot on that day, January 5th. This is the core algorithm update that Google admitted later was a core algorithm update. It was also the Panda algorithm update, which made Panda core. It was when they joined Panda to the core algorithm and now runs on a real-time basis. But remember, real-time for this is like the speed that galaxies move, not the speed that light moves. It's slow. It's very slow. This real-time is slow. Now, how slow? John Mueller told me exactly in a little bit, which I'm going to get to. But anyway, I just want you to know, and then also Searchmetrics did their report for theatlantic.com, and it plummeted ranking. And all these sites like theatlantic.com, all these generic EMD sites that I mentioned at the top of the program, they all had ranking plummets too. And so Searchmetrics, they're out to lunch. They have no idea what's causing this. They're speculating wildly, blah, blah, blah. But if you've been paying attention to me, and you've been paying attention to Google, or you've been paying attention to me, who's been paying attention to Google, and running experiments, and doing correlation reports, I know exactly what's going on. It makes perfect sense. Because my base.com dropped, it went back, by the way, because Google realized that most people, when they're searching for bass, they want bass guitars and not bass fishing. They would search bass fishing or something like that, some longer tail query, right? So the RankBrain, this is RankBrain, tracking user clicks, what people want. Most people click on this, they give you this. Most people click on that, they give you that. Most people click on this and stay this long and do these user actions, which confirms it's a real person, not a bot. They do this, right? Yes, it is that complex. It has to be, otherwise it would be too easy to manipulate. And people on crowdsearch.me who try to do this with bots, it doesn't really work. Why does it not work? It doesn't work at all. I just tested it. Why does it not work? Because they're using bots and proxy IPs. Google can detect all that. Google's detecting all that. So that's not going to work. I have other ways of doing it that do work. Very effective ways of doing it do work. If you want to boost your brand searches, which is the new link, contact me and I can help you out. So anyway, it did go down and it went up. So I know for a fact the core algorithm update that they also tested for theatlantic.com, people searching for the Atlantic or say, tell me about the Atlantic, Google, they're looking for the Atlantic Ocean. They want information on the Atlantic Ocean. So the edge case queries that had to do with the Atlantic, that theatlantic.com, the magazine, was enjoying, now got reduced because RankBrain has reshuffled its understanding of how it's going to tailor that based on user click data. And it's going to go up or down largely based on a number of things, including baseline, deviation from baseline, which I'm going to get to. And remember, this is Panda. So speaking of Panda, Jennifer Slegg, who is kind of a reporter, SEO reporter in the industry, hangs her out in the SMX, kind of search engine land, SE Roundtable kind of goody white hat circles. Cough, fanboys and girls, cough. She wrote an article and she got exclusive access to Google. Gary Isles, I believe, who answered very tersely. And she did a good job, I admit, of writing an entire article about a single sentence Google said. So, I mean, hey, I'm not critiquing, you know, I made a career off of what Google says. I've made a career of accurately identifying what Google says and reading between the lines there. Because I spent years and years in academia doing that for my master's degree and half my PhD. So here's the stuff that she said. So this is what the Google Spurs, so this was all about understanding the new core algorithm Panda. So I'm going to call it core Panda or just Panda, but remember it's now part of the core algorithm. So it's powered by RankBrain. It has the machine learning built into it, the artificial intelligence built into it. And I think, of course, it's based on user clicks. They haven't admitted that, but they've talked around it in circles quite a bit. So the Google spokesperson that she asked said this, and I quote, "If you believe your site is affected by the Panda algorithm, in Search Console's Search Analytics feature, you can identify the queries which lead to pages that provide overly vague information or don't seem to satisfy the user need for a query." I repeat, this is how Google says you should diagnose whether you have Panda or not. Go in Search Console and identify the queries which lead to pages that provide overly vague information or don't seem to satisfy the user need for a query. So they're tracking it by user clicks, obviously, only on pages that are ranking, not on pages that are not ranking. That's why you have to use Search Console to see if Google knows about the pages, to see if those pages have dropped in ranking, and then click through on those pages to see if they look vague or they're not terminating the search or providing conversions for you, in your opinion. Also, it is ongoing automatically. I'll talk about exactly what that means. It is the Panda algorithm may continue to show us such a site for more specific and highly relevant queries, but its visibility will be reduced for queries where the site owner's benefit is disproportionate to the user's benefit. I repeat, it will be the Panda hit site, this is quoting them, will be reduced for queries where the site owner's benefit is disproportionate to the user's benefit. Oh, they're so egalitarian. It's so nice of Google. Slag thinks this means it's site-wide. It's not. John Mueller has previously admitted that Panda is now based on subdomain. So www.redapples.com can get hit, redapples.com might not get hit, or blog.redapples.com can get hit, but redapples.com might not get hit. So point of interest, put your blog on blog.redapples.com, not /blog, because it makes a difference, especially if you have a crappy blog. How do you know if you have a crappy blog? Does anybody share it? Does anybody stay on your site? Does anybody like it? Does anyone comment positively? If not, you have a crappy blog. Stop. So many customers come to me and they're not ranking well and they don't know why, and I look at the blog and no one's sharing it, no one likes it, no one +1s it, no one comments positively, and no one, if it is ranking in search, people who go there bounce right away and they go back, whether they got the information they want or not. This is not the kind of thing telling Google you're great. So Slag is wrong. Unsurprisingly, she just writes down what Google tells her to write down. It's subdomain based. If she did some research and watched every single John Mueller Hangout ever since he started them, such as I have, some of them multiple times, she would realize that John Mueller has already admitted that Panda is now, this latest Panda is subdomain based. It used to be domain-wide. They also said, in general, high-quality sites provide great content for users on the vast majority of their pages. So yes, you need to be terminating the search. You need to be satisfying those users, and they have to be able to tell that by their user actions. Google has to be able to tell that by their user actions on most of your pages, most of them. So John Mueller previously said you need to have over 30% good pages. So if you go over the 30% crap pages threshold, that's a problem. That was John Mueller's out of his butt statistic, but he made that over a year ago, about a year and a half ago. But it apparently still applies. And here's the last thing that, out of that, again, I could talk about that article for another hour, but I'm just picking out the most important bits and building up to the great Panda conclusion, which I'm going to get to in a couple minutes. The Google spokesperson, which I believe is just Gary Isles, said, users not only remember, but also voluntarily spread the word about the quality of the site because the content is produced with care, it's original, and shows that the author is truly an expert in the topic of the site. So let's break down this sentence here. Let's take a page from Sleg's book here. Let's break down this sentence to see what it means. Users not only remember, so they bookmark it and go back to it, but also voluntarily spread, so they social share it and possibly link to it. For the last dinosaur out there who's linking on their blog. About the quality of the site, they talk about it positively, not negatively. Remember the bad merchant algorithm. Because the content is produced with care, maybe not. I've seen lots of people love sites that were crap. It's original, okay, so it can't be duplicate, can't be a duplicate content, right? And shows that the author is truly an expert in the topic of the site, meaning that they can tell it has author data, the author is a respected author on social media as well, and they can tell all these links that link together. And it has any ratings or reviews or possibly ratings and reviews. That's what is all I get out of that sentence. That's confirming all that stuff that has other confirmations. And comments on that site. Remember, positive comments help, negative comments seem to hurt. Barry Schwartz from SEO Roundtable, that little hotbed of troll flamerness, changed the way the comments are processed and started deleting really bad comments, and his site popped out of Panda. So, I mean, there's another piece of evidence for you that comments make a difference. Also, my correlation reports show that comments make a big difference. Okay, now, even further to the point, Gary Iles leaked a screenshot to Barry Schwartz around the end of the year, late December, early January. You can see it on SEO Roundtable. I'm not going to share my screen, but I was going to tell you what it shows. It's a screenshot. It shows one timestamp, an extra timestamp, the time that was, so 24 minutes, 27 seconds. It says web, then it has a unique ID, like 112,085,415. Or the unique ID was 112085415. And then it just goes down like that. 22 minutes web, 30 minutes web, 2 minutes web, 2 hours web, 29 minutes web. And then he kind of tweeted this out, this screenshot. You can tell it's a picture from a phone. He took a picture of his phone, he tweeted that out to Barry, saying, haha, secret thing of the day. This actually makes perfect sense to me. It tells you the time of when the web searcher, it says web, right? The time when the web searcher went there, how long they stayed, that it was a web visit, and here's the unique ID, and it's a link, it's blue, you can click on it probably, and get more information about that particular session ID. This is clearly a screenshot of how Google is tracking web searches. And mobile searches too, and other kinds of searches, otherwise they wouldn't have the unique identifier web there, right? It would say mobile if it was a mobile search. So Gary Iles thinks he's so smart and is tweeting this out to Barry just to be a prick, but it clearly tells me that, okay, they're checking, this could very well be the report from the safe browse information that RankBrain is using. Because RankBrain is, the safe browse is going to give you the information of what they clicked on and when when they process the page, they can put two and two together and find where that link is to determine if they should trust that link or not, right? And by the user actions that go on, they can tell you whether or not it was actually a user who clicked on it. So it makes perfect sense to me. So anyway, I can send you the screenshot if you want to see the screenshot, or just go on the SEO Roundtable, and it's Google's Gary Iles shares confidential screenshot, 21490. So if you Google that or search that on SEO Roundtable, you'll find it. Okay, that was fascinating. Now, I'm still going. I'm going to get through the rest. I'm going to get up to now. January 12th, John Mueller had a hangout. He claimed that in his opinion, a pop-up or something the client has to click through is a major ranking issue. I've said that before. It's on my Panda list. Go check it out. He also says when Rob Young of Experience Days, who is a really great company who's unfortunately having some trouble with Google. There's an unknown filter. I know what it is. But as far as the public is concerned, there's an unknown filter affecting their site. There was a couple of filters, actually. If you want more information about that, contact me. But it's not what everyone thinks. I know what it is. There was a couple of things. They cleared most of it off. Something they can't clear off because it's unclear-offable. Just think about that for a second. They're in the travel space, by the way. Remember, I think Google was moving into the travel space or something. I'm not sure. Anyway, I can't remember. when Rob Young mentions that they use the disavow file for machine learning, he says point blank, he says, it's not like Google is using the disavow file for machine learning. John Mueller makes a hilarious, yes we do face. He kind of nods his head and goes like this, like that. Okay, so it's at roughly 36 minutes and 40 seconds in on the January 12th Hangout. By the way, you need to go to YouTube to watch it because it's been deleted off of Google+. Interestingly enough, it's been deleted off of Google+, but I have the YouTube URL if you want to find it, and you can go to it. I'll give you the unique identifier. It's capital M, 7, capital Q, lowercase NAU, 9Y, capital Y, 0, capital Y. So that's the unique identifier on YouTube. If you search that, go to the January 12th Hangout from John Mueller, the Webmaster Trends Office Hours Hangout. At the 36 minute and 40 second in mark, roughly, Rob Young mentions that, and John Mueller, in my opinion, makes it hilarious. Yes, we do use the disavow file for machine learning. Okay, Andre from Google, that Russian guy from Google, did another Hangout. He didn't say anything that was all that interesting. Next, Google, I told you it was rapid fire. Google then changed around middle of January. Google changed their Webmaster guidelines. And so the diligent Jennifer Slegg was nice enough to summarize all those changes again. Now, as I said, I could do an entire Hangout just on these changes. However, I'm just going to touch the highlights. Quite frankly, Google insists that all images have alt attributes, but that they be specific and not stuffed. So don't put keywords in your alt attributes, name what the image is. If it's an image of a pretty girl, put pretty girl, not buy red apples. A human sitemap is fine, but not if it is filled with keywords. Make sure title and alt the title tags still matter for ranking, and alt attributes still matter for ranking as well. Again, but don't stuff them with keywords. One keyword in the title element, no keywords in the alt attributes. Remember. They said design your site and have a clear conceptual page hierarchy. Slag says, previously it said make a site with a clear hierarchy and text links. So remember, they talked about design in this new thing. So I mean that clearly they're deranking for poor site design in terms of links, in terms of URL, but also possibly for poor page design. This could be static. That's why they need to see our CSS and JS, or not. It could just be based on user clicks. But I've long speculated and suspected that they're going to be demoting, because they have 40 trillion pages to rank. And so they're going to make some pretty broad, brutal determinations about what's not even going to make the cut. And if your design is from 1997 and they can tell this, it's probably not going to make the cut, either directly from the program and or when users hate it and bounce from it. Again, they mentioned here to have valid HTML. It's an explicit change from last time to have valid HTML with no broken links. Again, they said specifically in this new Webmaster guidelines. Okay. Moving right now into February. We're into this month, February. I'm just going to get down to some of the highlights. Okay. Just so you know, both Pedro Diaz, an ex-Google employee, and Barry Schwartz, the Google suck-up, who has direct talks with the Google head of web spam, who he knows who that is and won't tell anybody. Because he's such an ethical guy. Him and Pedro have both been posting these little penguin animated GIFs for the last 2 weeks. And they keep asking, is Penguin releasing? Is Penguin releasing? Can you admit Penguin is releasing? And so I think that their Penguin is releasing. Let me give you my 2 cents on Penguin. It was supposed to be released in December. They didn't. I said publicly, I hope they won't tell you when it releases, because if they do, I guarantee the disavow file won't work. I was surprised they were going to tell us anyway. It seems that Google listened to me, and now they're humming and hawing about when it's going to be released. There's a bunch of ranking fluctuations that are going on now, but they won't admit that it's going on. But I find it interesting because Pedro, of course, still has friends in Google, and he usually knows ahead of time. He's a great person to watch. And he usually knows ahead of time. He doesn't say anything interesting. His Google rhetoric is more whitewashed than Google's. So I don't find him interesting from the telling you what to do standpoint, but I do find him interesting from the advanced warning when he says Penguin is being released. someone at Google told him Penguin is being released, right? He still has friends. And Barry Schwartz is doing the same thing. So I think this is a good indication that Penguin could be released around this time. And I have about 8 sites who have disavowed, and so I'm watching to see how well those sites work. Okay, on January 15th, I'm almost done. Oh, now I'm going back. Oh no, oh no. It's just like SEO. 3 steps forward, 4 steps back. On January 15th, John Mueller strongly implies there are problems with spammy exact match internal anchors. He said, don't put links where users never scroll. He says it's a keyword stuffing problem. He said that also it's going to screw up if you're putting links in non-editorial areas that are supposed to be navigation links. That's a low quality signal. So again, here's the problem with exact match stuffed internal links, whether blog links or not. One, they're in an area which is usually reserved for link outs, and that is a low quality signal. 2, it's usually stuffing extra keywords in there. Like, make sure you come by our used cars at Brandon, our used cars Winnipeg, our used cars Kenora, our used cars Toronto, right? That's just stuffing the used cars in there all the time, right? So that's not helping your page rank. It's not helping, it's diffusing your page rank. It's not helping your quality score because of 2 things that they look for. He specifically said in this Hangout, so don't do it anymore. For crying out loud, a puppy dies every time you do it. A puppy dies every time you make a blog that no one likes. Save the puppies! Save the puppies! Okay, and finally, here's where John Mueller on January 15th talks about Panda, and he spilled the beans. So I'm going to read this verbatim word for word. So forgive me just for reading, but it's that important. So, John Mueller talks about Core Panda. It says it works on a, quote, value based on, quote, data points. So just like the 2012 patent said it would. So in my words, I call it quality rank or a quality score. So your quality score, which is based on data points they collect, is, he said, updated periodically. So, and he said previously, is used as a factor to adjust ranking of a subdomain. And, quote, you won't notice the difference, meaning it hits each site individually as their signals are processed. And I quote, once the previous run stops, another starts. Right? So it's a sub-process in the core that runs processing user signals, spits out a score for that page, or for that subdomain. Processing user signals, spits out a score for that subdomain. How often does that happen? How fast? I'll tell you in a second. He says exactly. He says exactly. Finally, in a second. So once the previous run stops, another starts, meaning it processes signals, in my opinion, likely user action metrics, both their leaks and their logic and the patent all point to this. He mentioned crawling in there too. He says you have to crawl the pages. So they have to crawl the pages to know they exist to be able to determine whether or not they're going to get a good or bad score. So in my opinion, there are either still static factors that get a score for that subdomain, factored against the score of the user action-based satisfaction on that subdomain to get a relative quality rank. So they can promote or they can demote. So this is how I think it works. It's called RankBrain, not FilterBrain, right? RankBrain ranks sites. They check the user actions, the user searches, clicks, looks around, mouses around, clicks, mouses around, clicks, highlights their mouse over. Ever seen a heat map? People will actually move their mouse over a phone number before they call it. They can tell whether or not people are interested in that phone number and ostensibly whether they called that phone number, especially if it is a Google tracked phone number. Which on Android it is, and which on AdWords, the AdWords side it is. So, and John Mueller was asked specifically if they'd use it on the search side. He said, we might. He was cagey about that. So again, they can track these conversions, guys. So this is how RankBrain is working. And remember, I think RankBrain is ranking sites, and then I think they have other quality algorithms that run and derank sites like ads above the fold and all that stuff on the bad quality list that I have, which I'll talk about in a second. Now, JM John is cagey about the schedule at first, but then after this attractive young lady named Isa from Barcelona asks him, and she's the greatest secret weapon. She should be on the Hangout every single time because when a pretty girl asks John Mueller a question, he just stammers the answer out, right? When I ask him or someone, an SEO tries to ask him a cagey question, he clams all up. But when a pretty girl asks him a question, he just goes blah and gives it out. So pretty girls of the world, it's going to sound wrong. Pretty girls of the world, come talk to me and I'll tell you what to ask John Mueller. Maybe that. Never mind. That's going to get me in trouble. Never mind. But anyway. So at the end of the hangout, after Isa asks him, okay, well, how long will that take, John? Because my site has been affected. How long will that take? And so he says, he implies strongly that because they have to crawl each changed page, that they need to have a page to quote unquote work on to give, and in my opinion, to give a quality score to. And then he said, and I quote, maybe a week. Maybe a week, he said, quote unquote. And then maybe a week after, you will start to see some differences. So, and then he said up to 6 months for the, quote, other signals to be processed. So this is what that means. So they crawl a page, right? So remember, they have multiple quality algorithms. Google has already admitted they have multiple quality algorithms. So they have a set of static algorithms that look for like just crap on your page. Do you have pop-ups? Do you have interstitials? Do you have bad ads? So I have actually a list of what that is. So that means for all the static stuff, such as keyword stuffing, pop-up ads, ads above the fold, invalid HTML or schema, major reading or grammatical errors, errors on the page, blocking Googlebot, rendering discrepancies for Googlebot, broken images, or doorway pages. I repeat, this is all stuff from my Panda list, right? This is stuff they leaked years ago, that this is their static bad quality stuff. If your page has this, it is bad quality. Any of this stuff is up for grabs. I'm not saying all of it is there. I'm saying any of it is possible. And it was this again. You can check my Panda list, but here it is again. Keyword stuffing, pop-up ads, too many ads above the fold, invalid HTML or schema, major reading or grammatical issues, especially for your money or your life, medical or finance sites, errors on page, 404 errors, broken images, blocking Googlebot, rendering discrepancies for Googlebot, and doorway pages. That's the stuff that'll take a week to hit you. So if you've been crawled and they process your pages, check for all these things, and derank you. That was the old Panda. Core Panda, the RankBrain Panda, is the thing that takes up to 6 months processing the other signals. He said other signals, which is going to be the user action based. So that's the deviation from baseline. Why does it take so long? It makes perfect sense. Because the signal is noisy, as they say. Users do all kind of crazy things. So they need to process what the baseline user satisfaction levels are for every query, for every site, right? And then they need to see the relative for that SERP, what the user satisfaction is going to be. And then they'll promote you based on how much better than baseline you are. I don't think RankBrain will demote. I think these other static things will demote. Because when they rank you up, everything else is going to derank to fill in, right? So yes, it ranks and deranks, but technically it ranks. RankBrain is going to rank. It's called RankBrain, not FilterBrain. So RankBrain is going to be based on a score, a quality score, which is essentially your deviation from baseline of how satisfied a person is based on their user actions. Don't try and fake it unless you do a really good job of actually having humans in the country you want to rank in actually do it with non-proxy IP-based addresses, and probably Chrome, although they have safe browse in pretty much every browser, but they can't track user movement in any other browser that I know of except for Chrome, unless they put a special code on the page. So, yeah, so I mean, that's how I think it works, and John Mueller was pretty specific. You can watch this hangout yourself. The hangout was January 12th, I'm talking about. It was a fascinating January 15th, pardon me. It's a fascinating hangout. This is how he talked about Panda. Basically, it's going to take up to 6 months for them to process the crawl data, and that's going to go faster over time, right? Over time, they're going to get better baseline stats, and over time, they're going to be able to tell a deviation from baseline very more easily. The more searches you have, also the faster that's going to go. The more traffic you have, the faster that's going to go. And also the week thing he talked about, he was very specific. There's two things. There's a week kind of process, and then it could be up to months. And so that, I think, is going to be the static other quality algorithms that John Mueller has admitted they have that look for all those kind of static bad quality things that he mentions. And that after they crawl that page could go up or down. I think that's page-based, and I think the core Panda, the RankBrain Panda, has to be subdomain-based. He's mentioned Panda is now subdomain-based. And it would be too hard to do it per page. It's too much processing to do it per page. But I think they're going to be doing it per site. So it's going to be an adjustment kind of per site. And it's entirely possible both of those algorithms could make a static quality score and a user action quality score, put them together to get your general quality score, and then compare your quality score with everybody else and shuffle accordingly. They can do that too. There's no reason why they can't do that. And that would be site-based or subdomain-based as well. So that, I think, my friends, I still had a couple other stuff. So finally, on the same Hangout, was it the same Hangout? January 15th, I believe. A fellow asked, yes, it was, January 15th. So a fellow asked also, how do I find out what it looks like in another city? The answer is easy. Just go to Google AdWords Ad Preview. Just use Google AdWords Ad Preview and you can tell what it looks like in some other city. And if that doesn't work for you, then what you would do is you use an incognito window, go to Google the country you want to go to, add in the string GL equals the country code for where you want to go, and then you want to use locksmith Toronto CA to get the Toronto CA locksmiths, and you want to declick the personalization button, and that will give you a pretty close facsimile of what it looks like in that city as well. Or, as I said, you could just use AdWords Ad Preview. And he also admitted that hreflang, they see it as the same page. So this means that if you want to rank, here's a nice little trick, and I want to see if it works, and I have some evidence to suggest it will, that if you want to rank better in all English-speaking language nations, for example, let's say you had an English site that you could sell to Canada, US, Australia, and the UK. You can sell to all those places. Okay, so what you should have is your main site is a .ca, .com, .co.uk, whatever, for that particular area you want to rank for. And then you have an hreflang with the proper language, the proper spelling, the proper recurrency, and the proper time and things. An hreflang for all the other pages, and you should get a little bit of a boost in all those other areas. This according to what John Mueller said in this Hangout. And finally, the last John Mueller leak, which is a good one. John Mueller fully admits that, one, they use split testing with new sites to wait to see user reactions to it. In my opinion, this is likely brand searches, user actions, but also possibly time on page, returns, social buzz. And he said this takes a few months, quote unquote. And also, two, that your on-page specificity matters. It will rank the site higher, make it look better to them, and the URL architecture will matter too. So he said in this leak, he admitted, and he broke it down very specifically, that for new sites, your on-page specificity matters, because he said some sites will rank better than some sites with no links and no data, no off-site data. Only on-page factors will rank better than others. Well, that means that on-page factors matter, and how you structure your keywords and structure your site matter, as long as you don't overdo it. And again, I've talked about how not to overdo it. Basically, just put the keyword in there once in the title, in the H1, and just mention it naturally in the text. That's it. That's it. Do not go stuffing extra keywords in there. Don't stuff variations in there. Not in the title in the H1. And don't go trying to go for highly commercial, obvious search phrases. Don't put obvious search phrases in there. Just label it naturally what it's supposed to be labeled. Okay, so I need a drink. So that was probably one of the most interesting and the most useful leaks that have happened in the last 3 or 4 months. Again, thank you for paying attention for this long. If you have any questions about any of those leaks, I'll pick through and get to the secondarily interesting stuff. But if you have any questions about those leaks, by all means, contact me at joshbachynski@gmail.com. You can follow me at Twitter at joshbachynski. And you can find more videos like this with the experiments and the other leaks I was talking about, and a cornucopia of SEO information at youtube.com/jbachins. So without further ado, I bid you good luck in the SERPs, and we'll see you next time.